Happy Monday, table family. It's Yolanda. It is Monday. It is time for another episode of Everybody at the Table. I am super excited to be with you today. Number one, it's because we're back from summer hiatus. And I'm super excited that we can start sharing some of the interviews I've been working on since our break. I didn't get a chance to acknowledge the 30th episode. It just kind of got past me. But today I want to do that. Again, thank you for those who've been with me from the very beginning and to those who've just pulled up a chair. This community is growing, and that means something. It means the conversations that we are having truly matter. And speaking of those just pulling up a chair, I want to welcome to our audience two new listeners, Ashley and Tamika. These dynamic women I met this week through another conversation led by one of our former guests, Adrian Johnson, and some things she's working on. I'm not going to steal her thunder, but when it's time, we're going to bring her back to the table and she can share what she's been working on since we last heard from her. Now let's turn to this episode. We're going to talk about Washington, D.C., and what is going on there with the federal government. America has a long-told history of itself of being the big tent. You've heard it. A place with room for everyone. A table wide enough to welcome the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to be free. That's the inscription on the Statue of Liberty that we hail is a shining bright light for the world to be like us. Former President Ronald Reagan referred to it as a shining city set upon a hill. This is the imagery that I grew up hearing about America. But that truth seems to be shrinking. And the table is getting shorter, the light is dimming, and it's happening not by accident, but by design. Washington, D.C. is now the symbol of this federal overreach that we're starting to see. Just this week, if you've been listening to the news, the current president, took over the city and federalized the police force in a so-called effort to root out crime. Take a listen to this NBC report of what was happening in the city as of Friday, August 16th.
Protests on the streets of the nation's capital over the federal takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police force and the deployment of the city's National Guard. Marching to the White House, D.C. residents fighting back against what they view as government overreach.
Our country's being taken over. Our city's being taken over.
It comes as federal agents were out in force again Friday night, patrolling popular nightlife areas.
As agents on the block.
White House officials tell NBC News there were a total of 52 arrests, 3 illegal firearms seized, and 28 undocumented immigrants taken into custody overnight. The city's police force typically averages 68 arrests per day, according to the Metropolitan Police Department. The overnight operation following an agreement between the Department of Justice and D.C. officials, which averted a prolonged legal battle.
To be clear, Washington, D.C. is a U.S. district that is controlled by the federal government. The president has every legal right to deputize federal agents in the streets of D.C. for a certain period of time. But keep in mind, this is the same president who refused to call on the National Guard and refused to deputize federal police agencies when he led a crowd to turn its ire toward the U.S. Congress. I don't want to get into that, but I'm just saying. Now, when we look at this today, I think, without being an alarmist, I am not a conspiracy theorist, and I certainly try to lead with a level head and love. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that. But what we are seeing today is inching us closer and closer to authoritarianism and dictatorship. And it may sound like an exaggeration, but let's be clear. I want us to sit with the truth here. Authoritarianism never arrives all at once. Change never arrives all at once. It's sudden leaks until we look up and the landscape has eroded. It comes in increments. It comes through rights revoked one by one. And it comes through concentrated authority. That's what we have now. We have Republicans who are not doing their job. They're supposed to be 3 equal branches of government. And now they've concentrated this access to where Republicans in the Congress refuse to hold the president accountable, and Republican placed judges refuse to hold the administration accountable. Where is the line? Where do we draw the line to understand who is going to check who? We need that in a democracy. Or how we have gotten here is because too many people have said, this doesn't touch me, or I don't care because I don't have a stake in it. The same that is happening in Washington, D.C. I personally do not live there, but I'm concerned about what's happening there. That is the point of bringing everybody to the table. We know we got here because there were too many women who voted for this or didn't vote at all, whose very rights are being eroded through legislation or a retraction of legislation. But because they didn't see that, they didn't care. Too many men, black men included, Hispanic men included, who listened to toxic masculine podcasts that pushed rhetoric, that ultimately buoyed themselves and stripped rights from others. And now here we are. And they now are a target as well. Too many Christians that claim to love Jesus but ignored that Christ himself came for the poor, the broken, and the outcast. If we don't care, if we don't raise our voices, if we don't get involved, even though we don't live in D.C., next time it'll be our communities. It touches all of us every day. We are watching so-called people who love this country embrace fascism, embrace authoritarianism, embrace fear instead of freedom. And the truth is, this tent is shrinking, and it's rooted in hate, it's rooted in white supremacy, and it's rooted in always keeping some people out while hoarding power for others. But you know me, I don't leave any podcast without some hope, because Donald Trump and his minions would have you believe that all cities are just eroding. And honestly, if you didn't live in our communities or come to the cities, visit New York, visit DC, visit Atlanta, visit Chicago, you would believe it, because that's what the media pushes. But I am here to tell you that that's not true. I love Washington, D.C. I love New York City. I love my home city, the best city in the world, Chicago, Illinois. I've been here for a week or so, and I can tell you that there is a counter narrative that Donald Trump or none of his minions want you to know. Yes, in every city, because there's a concentrated population, there's going to be more crime. But when you look at it statistically and at scale, it is the bigger picture of what is happening in your small cities. It's a microcosm of human behavior. But because of various reasons, mostly due to money and power, that full story is not told. I love what I have seen here in Chicago, Illinois this week. Chicago is investing in community. I experienced it in a focus group of like-minded black women who are rallying behind the idea of how do we help to heal and elevate black women going forward. I experienced it on Saturday. I was invited by my sister. I kind of just got on the bandwagon and went with her to the Timothy Center, which is a community center in the middle of the Bronzeville neighborhood in Chicago. Bronzeville is a historic community for African Americans in the Chicago area. And what the revitalization of this community continues to become is astounding to me. Pastor Mike Neal has refurbished a school that was closed, that had the potential of being an eyesore to the community, has made it a gathering place for the community to learn health, fitness. He has brought in research universities to come and help the community understand how to overcome systemic health issues. I saw women and men doing aerobics and kickboxing classes, all in this refurbished school. More to come. Of course, I got an impromptu podcast interview from that experience. But I'm here to tell you, in the words of Pastor Mike Neal, who is the visionary of the Timothy Center and the Glorious Light Church, he says something that stuck with me. He said it's very interesting that the media always hails the bad stories. Media always hails the stories of the bad things that are happening in our cities. This many people got shot, or this got broken into. But according to Pastor Neal, if you're going to define me by the crime, then you also have to define me by the good. And we don't talk about how many festivals and book drives and community events that are done safely. In fact, what brought me to the city was my high school reunion. I went to Hyde Park High School, and we had our all-class reunion every second Saturday of August. Thousands of us sit in the middle of a park in the city of Chicago. Not one incident, nothing but love, nothing but joy and dancing and sharing and fellowship. And that is not talked about enough. So the question for you and I is, what will we continue to do in our circles? And how will we keep the tent wide and the table long? How will you and I resist shrinking, not just nationally, but locally, the tables that we sit at in our neighborhoods, in our families, and in our own lives? That's where I'll leave us this week. I'm so excited season 2 is here, and we're back to our long form conversations. Next week, I'll be joined by a dear friend with a powerful, unique voice for this moment, especially for Black men. You don't want to miss it. Until then, remember, the table only gets smaller if we let it. Please like, please share the podcast. Let me hear from you, your thoughts of what you think is going on in this country right now, especially as it relates to the table shrinking or the tent shrinking. And then let's keep building. Let's keep connecting, and let's keep the light alive. Until next time, take care and dine well.